Chapter 3, Summary of Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Introduction. Chapter 3 continues the emotional journey of Fumiko Kiyakawa and Goro Katada in the first story, The Lovers. Having traveled back in time to meet Goro, Fumiko now faces the reality that her opportunity is limited. The coffee in front of her is gradually cooling, and once it becomes cold, her chance to remain in the past will end. This chapter focuses on the heart of their conversation. It explores the misunderstandings that drove them apart, the emotions they never expressed, and the healing that comes from finally speaking honestly. While nothing about the timeline can be changed, both characters begin to gain a deeper understanding of each other. The weight of unspoken feelings as Fumiko continues talking with Goro. She realizes how much of their relationship had been affected by things left unsaid. During their years together, they had cared deeply for each other, yet they often assumed they knew what the other person was thinking. Instead of openly discussing fears and expectations, they relied on guesses and assumptions. When Goro announced his move to America, Fumiko assumed he was choosing his career over their relationship. Because she felt hurt, she reacted defensively. Looking back, she now understands that her reaction came from fear. She was afraid of being abandoned and afraid of admitting how much she depended on him emotionally. The conversation forces her to confront these uncomfortable truths. Goro's hidden struggles. One of the most important revelations in Chapter 3 is that Goro had his own doubts and fears. Fumiko had spent months imagining that his decision had been easy. She believed he had simply chosen an exciting opportunity and left her behind. However, Goro explains that the decision was much more complicated. Moving to America meant leaving behind his familiar life, his friends, and the woman he loved. He had wrestled with uncertainty before making his choice. He hoped Fumiko would support him, but he also understood that his decision might hurt her. This revelation changes the way Fumiko sees their breakup. For the first time, she recognizes that both of them had been suffering. The importance of listening. Throughout the chapter, Fumiko begins to listen more carefully than she ever had before. In the past, she often focused on defending her own perspective. She was quick to react emotionally and slow to consider Goro's feelings. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, she pays close attention to what he is saying. As she listens, she realizes how many misunderstandings had developed between them. The chapter suggests that many relationship problems are not caused by a lack of love, but by a lack of understanding. People become trapped inside their own assumptions and fail to truly hear each other. Fumiko's willingness to listen becomes one of the key reasons for her emotional growth. A different conversation. The conversation unfolding in the cafe is very different from the one they originally had. Instead of arguing, they speak calmly. Instead of hiding their emotions, they reveal them. Instead of trying to win, they try to understand. This change allows both characters to express thoughts they had never shared before. Fumiko admits that she was hurt because she wanted a future with Goro. Goro acknowledges that he was disappointed by her reaction, because he hoped she would understand why the opportunity mattered so much to him. The honesty between them creates a sense of closeness that had been missing during their final meeting. Time continues to pass even as their conversation becomes more meaningful. The pressure of time remains. The coffee is steadily cooling. The reader is constantly reminded that this moment cannot last forever. This ticking clock adds emotional intensity to every exchange. Fumiko knows she cannot waste time on trivial matters. She must decide what is most important to say before the opportunity disappears. The chapter uses this sense of urgency to emphasize a broader lesson about life. Meaningful conversations are often delayed because people assume there will always be another chance. The cafe's rules force Fumiko to recognize that chances are limited. Letting go of pride. One of Fumiko's greatest challenges is overcoming her pride. In the past, pride prevented her from admitting her fears and vulnerabilities. She wanted to appear strong and independent. As a result, she pushed away the person she loved most. Chapter 3 shows her gradually letting go of this protective mask. She accepts that being emotionally honest does not make her weak. In fact, it requires courage. By expressing her true feelings, she becomes stronger rather than weaker. This realization represents a major turning point in her personal growth. The meaning of closure. As their conversation continues, Fumiko begins to understand what closure really means. Before visiting the cafe, she believed closure would come from changing the outcome of her relationship. She imagined that if she could somehow convince Goro to stay, her pain would disappear. Now she realizes that closure is something different. It comes from understanding. It comes from expressing what needs to be said. It comes from accepting reality rather than fighting against it. This insight reflects one of the central messages of the novel. The purpose of time travel is not to erase pain, but to help people make peace with it. Emotional transformation. By the latter part of the chapter, Fumiko is no longer the same person who first entered the cafe. When she arrived, she was consumed by regret. She viewed herself as someone who had lost the most important relationship of her life. Now she begins to see things more clearly. She understands that her mistakes do not define her. She recognizes that love existed between her and Goro, even though their relationship faced difficulties. Most importantly, she learns that she can move forward without being trapped by the past. This transformation is subtle but powerful. The circumstances of her life remain unchanged, yet her emotional state has been fundamentally altered. The cafe's philosophy. Chapter 3 also reinforces the philosophy behind the cafe's mysterious ability. The cafe does not offer people the chance to create a perfect life. It does not allow them to erase mistakes. Instead, it offers something more realistic and perhaps more valuable: perspective. By revisiting important moments, people can gain a deeper understanding of themselves and others. This understanding often becomes the first step toward healing. The chapter demonstrates that wisdom does not come from changing events, but from learning how to interpret them differently. Key themes in Chapter 31. Understanding others. The chapter highlights the importance of seeing situations from another person's perspective. Fumiko's understanding of Goro changes dramatically once she truly listens to him too. The cost of pride prevents honest communication and often creates unnecessary suffering. Fumiko learns that vulnerability is essential for meaningful relationships. 3. Acceptance. The inability to change the past forces characters to focus on acceptance rather than control. 4. Closure. Closure is shown as an internal process rather than an external event. 5. Time. The cooling coffee symbolizes the limited opportunities people have to express their feelings. Character growth. Fumiko's emotional maturity increases significantly during this chapter. She moves beyond blame and begins taking responsibility for her actions. She learns to communicate openly and to appreciate perspectives other than her own. Goro becomes a more fully developed character. Readers see the emotional burden he carried and the difficult choices he faced. His calm and thoughtful responses help Fumiko achieve the understanding she desperately sought. Conclusion. Chapter 3 of Before the Coffee Gets Cold serves as the emotional center of the lovers. Through a sincere and heartfelt conversation, Fumiko and Goro confront the misunderstandings that separated them. Although the rules of the cafe prevent any change to the timeline, something equally important occurs. Both characters gain clarity. Fumiko learns that Goro's departure was not a rejection of her, and she discovers the courage to express her feelings honestly. The chapter beautifully demonstrates that healing does not require changing the past. Sometimes it simply requires understanding it. As the coffee continues to cool and time begins to run out, Fumiko moves closer to the acceptance and peace she has been searching for.